So something weird happened today. Earlier today, my video talking about the gap between the announcement of Chris Chibnall leaving as showrunner of Doctor Who and so far no announcement of his replacement was a little worrying, because in previous instances we had the next showrunner announced at the same time as it was announced the existing showrunner was leaving. Now, if you want to watch the video I made, it's there. But after that went up, something that doesn't really happen to me happened, which was somebody reached out to me claiming to have inside information about who the next showrunner is going to be. Now, a couple things before I get into any of this. As I said, it is not typical for me to get this kind of contact and have people reach out to me. It has happened in a couple of cases. Generally, I haven't gone anywhere with it. The one time I did make a video based off that, it didn't pan out. I still don't think that that was actually because of bad information, just because what the people involved in that, it was about the DC stuff. What Warner Brothers wanted to do just didn't pan out. I still actually do believe the information that was given in terms of their goals. But in any case, this is not something I'm used to getting. And more importantly, this isn't something that I'm used to vetting. I did my best, but I want to lay out the information, how it came to me, and how I did my best to vet it before sharing it with you, because I would not have shared this if I didn't have some reason to believe in the authenticity of it, and or if it didn't make sense. But we'll talk about that when I get into what it actually is. So I was reached out to by an individual. I'm not going to give names. They asked that they be withheld. Now, this individual did not have firsthand knowledge. However, they, according to them, have been friends for a long time with someone who does have firsthand knowledge of what's going on with the BBC in regards to decisions about Doctor Who. Now, unfortunately, that person who has the actual firsthand knowledge, I couldn't vet them. I don't have their information. They're not the one who reached out to me. However, I was able to vet the person who did reach out to me. And I was able to my satisfaction, confirm that they were who they said they were. And I don't have reason to believe that they were lying to me about this. And again, the information that they gave me actually makes a fair amount of sense on a number of different levels. So, with all that in mind, what I was told is that the BBC is lining up for the next showrunner to replace Chris Chibnall is Sally Wainwright, which is a name I am personally not familiar with. She does not appear to have ever written for Doctor Who before, but she has been working in British television since the 90s. She has created multiple shows, including At Home with the Braithwaites, Last Tango in Halifax, Happy Valley, and more recently, and kind of pertinently, I'll talk about why in a little bit, the award-nominated and winning Gentleman Jack. So she has a fair amount of experience working in this industry, writing in this industry, and partnering with the BBC. Now, there was another element mentioned around all of this that kind of made me go, okay. And that is also a production studio move, which would kind of be a big deal because up to this point, every modern era Doctor Who has been done at BBC Wales. So, moving it to Lookout Point, which was the production company that was named and the information I was given, would be a pretty substantial thing. Now, why would they move it? Now, to be clear, Lookout Point is actually owned by BBC. So this wouldn't be like a complete outsourcing situation. BBC does own Lookout Point, but it would be moving production studios. So the question there becomes, well, why? Well, the reason would be because they want Sally Wainwright. Because Lookout Point is the production studio that she has been working with for the last few projects that she's worked on, including Gentleman Jack. So that seems to be a case of, these are the people I like to work with. If you want me, they come with it. And there might be other internal politicky reasons behind that. If I'm going to be the cynical bastard that I think we all kind of know that I am, there's the possibility that if they move Doctor Who production out of BBC Wales, that maybe it will give them a reason to close it down if they feel it's an expense they don't need anymore, maintaining that particular studio, or they might decide to allocate its resources to something else altogether. That's another possibility. But the pairing of those two pieces of information is part of why I feel like there's some degree of, okay, maybe, to this. Because it's not just saying, here's the new person. This is adding additional information that was like, well, if they wanted her, or if she made a really good pitch, or whatever, I don't know who approached who, if any of this is even true, then it would make sense. She would want to continue to work with the production studio that she has established herself quite well with, as opposed to relocating to Wales. So the amount of things accounted for feels like more than would normally happen with just fake information. Somebody just going, hey, here is this person, to troll me. Again, not that that's impossible. So there are a couple of other things to note. One is, Wainwright actually recently announced a completely different project that she's going to be involved in. She is producing a show for Disney Plus called The Ballad of Renegade Belle. So that got announced earlier this year. That does not necessarily take her out of the running. Firstly, because we already know that Chibnall's material isn't going to be done until 2022, so there's a couple of years to go anyways. But in addition to that, there was another piece of information that was in the stuff that I was given. There were actually a couple of other things that I was given. Some of it I'm not going to address or pass on because, not because I have reason to doubt it, but it's a little too gossipy for my own personal comfort to be spreading around. But one of the things that was mentioned was a possible hiatus following Chibnall's time. Now, I know for Doctor Who fans, the term hiatus is a loaded term with a lot of baggage because, in the 1980s, the show was put on hiatus for about 16 years. So, that's a term that it feels like doom and gloom to a lot of Doctor Who fans, and I get that. But if we're talking about it like as just okay, after Chibnall's done, we take a breather, either because, or a combination of, we feel like we need some distance and give fans the time to miss the show before bringing it back, or wait for Sally Wainwright's schedule to free up. And again, if it's true that they would move the production to Lookout Point to accommodate her, that, if any of this is true, it indicates a very strong desire from the BBC to want her on this. And if it's strong enough for them to move production out of BBC Wales to a completely different studio, it might be strong enough for them to wait an extra year and a half beyond what they normally would. Now, I still don't have any belief that a hiatus would go any longer than that. Partly because, BBC kind of needs Doctor Who. Doctor Who, regardless of what happens with the ratings, is still one of their most lucrative properties in terms of licensing, merchandise, partnerships with companies like HBO, which I said I would come back to. It's actually worth noting that Wainwright's show Gentleman Jack, which is kind of her high point right now, that is a show that was made and then released in partnership with both the BBC and HBO. It aired on both. So given that Doctor Who is now it's not a joint production, but for the US, it's airing on HBO. And that deal to give HBO the airing rights to Doctor Who was a big deal for both the BBC and for HBO Max. So getting someone on board who has already made productions that were tailored to be done on both platforms, that's someone who already knows how to work what the BBC would need her to do. Now, I can't say a ton about her body of work because I haven't really seen any of it. I can say I didn't see too much jump out at me that looked like flat-out sci-fi, but having glimpsed a little bit at Gentleman Jack and seeing the pitch for the new show that she's doing for Disney Plus, she definitely seems to have an edge for, at least in her more recent work, bringing a modern sensibility to older setting stories, because both Gentleman Jack and this new show, which is about a female highwayman, a robber, are based on true stories, but definitely Gentleman Jack was, and the pitch for this new show seems to be being displayed with a very modern sensibility in terms of the way it's shot, how the characters are presented, and just the tone and vibe of the thing. And the tone and vibe I got off Gentleman Jack, that would fit Doctor Who. So that would be an interesting thing to think about. Now, in terms of how well would this go down with fans, if it is Sally Wainwright, that might be another reason to add a little buffering time and a little hiatus, because not everyone who disliked Chibnall or Jodie was this way, but let us not forget there are definitely plenty of people out there who were mad at just the idea of the Doctor ever being cast as a woman. I don't imagine they are going to go, oh great, the show will be good again, when the showrunner ends up being a woman. And also, lots of people will probably claim right off the bat, well, obviously she's going to cast another woman again as the Doctor. First of all, separate conversation. And they would probably base that off, the last few things she's done. Gentleman Jack and now this new show having female leads. I'm like, oh, heaven forbid, she does things with women. Now, might she go with a female Doctor again? Well, she might, but I don't have any substantive reason to believe that other than just these vagaries, and that's not enough to go off of. But anyway, the point I was actually making is it would not settle the same fans that were exceptionally and viciously vocal about how much they hated this particular era of Doctor Who. Again, that's not to say everyone who disliked it or even outright hated it is this way. But again, let's just be realistic about where the fandom is right now. So that's the information that I have. That Sally Wainwright is the pick, and in order to accommodate her, there is going to be a production studio move. And there may or may not be a hiatus, which, again, the BBC may want to do to wait for her, because the hiatus was something specifically mentioned in the information I was given, but not necessarily the rationale behind it. So when I talk about the reason for hiatus, that part's my speculation. So possible factors in that, if it happens, could be waiting for Wainwright's schedule to properly clear so she's truly available, just waiting for a little time to cool down from the Chibnall era after whatever fan wars happen in regards to that. And if there is just the general sense from the BBC that, hey, the ratings rebound didn't stick under Chibnall's era, and maybe we need to wait and make the fans miss us a little bit. Because, I haven't talked about ratings in a while, but I'll just say really quickly. We obviously won't know Series 13 until it starts airing, but it is true that the lowest rated episode in terms of viewer numbers in the UK itself did happen on Chibnall's watch. There was an episode that had a rating of 4.69 million, which is the low the show has had in the modern era. Though, to be fair, the second least viewed is from Moffat's era, and that's Series 10, Eaters of Light, I believe that one was. So it's not that, at least as far as looking at Series 12, that the numbers have tanked lower than Doctor Who has ever gone. I mean, technically they did, but by a little bit on one episode. But what the issue is there is that they bounced back up in Series 11, but then went back down to their low point that they had been previously. So that boost didn't last. So regardless of whether Series 13 goes up or down, it was not the sustained increase that the BBC probably wanted. And that might be another reason why a hiatus might be in the cards, or another factor. So, again, all of this, massive grain of salt. I rarely get anything that looks like inside information, and I've done my best to vet it and explain why I think this makes sense to be true. I am fairly confident in this. I'm not going to say 100% this is definitely what's happening, because I don't have enough. I wasn't able to vet the core source. But for the best I was able to do, this makes sense. And it was too interesting to not talk about. So, what do you think about any of this? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I have a Patreon, which is what enables this whole thing to happen. If you're not able to support me there, That's okay. Like, share, and subscribe also help me out, but no pressure. Take a relaxed attitude around here, and apparently, share leaks when they come to me directly sometimes. God, I hope this doesn't open the floodgates to people start sending me stuff. Because, I don't want to have to vet all that much. We'll see. Anyways, try and take a relaxed attitude around here, so just come on back next time you need a break.